Hello friends. So this is about the landscape, or rather a cityscape. I'm painting the wet and wet with the cerulean blue mixed with ultramarine to give it a gradient pattern for the sky. And then I'm going to target the big shapes first, just to cover the background and give a perspective of the distance. So at this moment I'm doing the background color with the mix of the green hue and mix of blue, a bit of yellow ochre in there. So trying to cover the background now, a bit pinch of red here and there. Trying to cover the most of the space, which is white. I'm just trying to cover the white of the paper. Now I'm doing the coming from background to foreground with lighter shades to darker shades. At this point my paper is not that wet, so I'm just using a very dilute pigment on this side of the paper. Just a little bit taking off the color off the paper with the tip of the brush, just to highlight the pathway over there, or the marking on the roads about the divider sort of things. This point my paper is not that wet. It's the first wash has gone dry, so I'm trying to use the color, the darker pigment over there to paint the bigger shapes first. Carefully I'm just painting the outer areas first, and then trying to cover the inner areas with the wet on dry. This brush is Escoda brush. I'm really impressed with Escoda, with the point, or with the softness of the brush. These are synthetic hair brush. A little bit highlight over there. There's just I'm dropping the yellow ochre wet on wet, so it leaves a mark over there. Gravity plays a role when water, if you leave a drop at the top, then the board which I am having at the 45 degrees, gravity pull that water down and will leave its mark at your places wherever you have left the pigment. I'm trying to cover the bigger shapes first. Don't want to get into details yet, but trying to cover the big shapes with the varied colors, just to give an impression that okay, that's a building, it has got some tiny little windows, or some of the open areas, chimney and all that. So with the pigment of your color, leave some marks, some dry brush marks or wet brush marks on the color. Few of the surfaces may reflect light, so leave them. It is important to leave the white space in watercolors, because everything is, you cannot define when you are doing watercolors. It's something you should be leaving for the viewer to assume. Okay, a little bit closer look at how brush is being used and how I am leaving some of the wet and wet colors. Till this point, you might have seen the background on the left is lighter than the foreground on the right. Okay, so after this I would be trying to cover the left side of the cityscape, but carefully this point I'm trying to leave some of the white space just to make sure there is a shadow at some places, and at some places the light is hitting. So wherever the light is, it would be brighter, and wherever there is a darker area, there would be a shadow over there. Don't really, you have to get dwelled into the details of your subject yet. Try to get focused on your focal point first. If your focal point is around the building, the tower, or the tram or the cars, then you would define the details over there and would leave rest of the objects or subjects in your painting with lesser details. Carefully picking up some of the color for the background trees. At this point I have the first wash or the second wash done for the buildings and for the tram, for the cars. I'm painting some of the figures over there just to bring a life to the painting. So in terms of shadows are very important for such cityscapes when you are painting them, because they anchor your subjects to the ground. And you need to make sure that where the shadows are lighter and the darker values. Just about to finish a little guy there. I think it is, this guy should be facing us, so that's why I left the a little red on the face. So this is a small paper. This is A5 size of paper from Art Essential. It is good paper. I have used different sorts of different types of papers, different sizes, different brands, and I have had a great experience with what's a Canson paper, the Menra paper, and this is the Art Essential paper. I've also used Winsor & Newton watercolor paper. Mostly I try to use the cold press paper, which comes with some of the pattern. It's not very smooth, so it has got a texture in it. At this point I'm just painting the highlights with the Chinese white color to leave some marks about the light reflecting out of the surfaces, some of the backlights of the car, tram's front light, because this is a day scene, so I don't have to paint the red and highlight the red over there. in terms of light. Some of the touch points about the bands of these little figures, shadows, pathways, buildings, building shadows, the windows, their shadows, the road, the marking of the tires on the road that carries your eyes from the foreground to background, that takes you on a trip from foreground to the background, left to the right, and pretty much done with this painting in a very quick fashion. It is time to sign the painting. It is very important to leave your mark on this painting. I generally do my full name and the date so that I can remember when I look them back, and it is important to keep track of your progress, that how you've been doing over the years, over the months, while you are practicing painting. So it is important to leave your mark. It gives authenticity, it gives your satisfaction that you have made something today. So it is pretty much done. Thank you for watching, and keep on liking and subscribing.